This is the San Francisco 49ers report, and it is NFL trade deadline day. And coming up on today's show this morning, we're going to go over all of the latest San Francisco 49ers trade rumors going into the 4 p.m. Eastern deadline, which is one of the best days on the NFL calendar year. Before we dive into all of this, it's an absolutely loaded show, so continue to hang out with us. This is why you subscribe to the channel. If you want daily updates and daily shows on the San Francisco 49ers, not just daily, but also year-round, and you want to join the 99,000 plus people who are subscribed to the program worldwide, lock us in. I promise you, we will not disappoint. So let's begin here with this report from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, and it has to do with the player that we've been talking about a lot here on the show, one of the top cornerbacks in the game and one of the top young defenders in the National Football League. That is Bears cornerback Jaylon Johnson. Overnight, he requested a trade per source. Chicago granted permission to Jaylon Johnson to search for a new home. Before today's NFL trade deadline, the player and the team negotiated a new contract last week, but could not come close to a deal, so a talented cornerback is now available. What's arguably one of the biggest Niners needs, a cornerback. More from Fowler here. From late last night, Bears and Johnson's agent Chris Ellison have the next 7 hours to swing a deal of Jaylon Johnson. Now, the Chicago Bears this morning did trade for Montez Sweat. You could take him off the board for San Francisco. Does that mean that they're no longer going to trade Jaylon Johnson? And they're buyers. We'll see what happens over the next few hours. But look at a team here that Chris Fowler mentioned in this report. Teams I've talked to believe the San Francisco 49ers, Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Niners' rival, the Philadelphia Eagles, have been in the corner market to some degree. And then there's this report from Ed Warder, also of ESPN. And obviously, the Eagles and Niners being two of the top teams in the NFC, but also the Dallas Cowboys being in the mix, is why we have to lay the foundation and why it's important to relay this information. The Niners and Bills, even from Ed Warder, are among those discussing potential trades for Jaylon Johnson. The Cowboys to this point have not been involved. The deadline 3 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock for those of you on the West Coast. Yeah, I can do some math here on the show. I believe I got that right. If I didn't, F me in the comments. Now, who is Jaylon Johnson? We talked about him plenty here on the show. Really special player, a young player who's in the final year of his rookie contract. So because of that, the team that acquires him, if he does get dealt, may have to negotiate a contract extension. He's 24 years old. He was a second-round pick in 2020 out of Utah. I love what Kyle Whittingham does with that program, what he's done with that program, but how he develops tough players, especially on the defensive side of the football, because that's really one of the backbones of that Utah program. They're playing against teams like Oregon, flashy. They're playing against teams like USC. Utah is the physical team and has been in the Pac-12. Obviously, that conference is falling apart. But for those of you in California, those of you on the West Coast, you know, if you like college football, the type of identity that Utah has as a program, but their players have. And that's part of the reason why I like Jaylon Johnson. He's come up getting coached up, right? Has that mental toughness, has that dog in him. Number 3 graded cornerback in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus, with an overall grade of 85.8. As for some more of his PFF grades, we talk about the coverage grade here, has an elite overall Pro Football Focus grade at 84.4. When he has been targeted this year on 220 coverage snaps, he has only given up a passer rating of 37.3. Has a knack for making plays on the football. He can read things before they happen. Good speed, agility, and physicality to stick with some of the top wide receivers in the National Football League. And he has 2 interceptions this year, both of them coming 2 weeks ago. One of them went back for a pick 6, which kind of displayed some of the ball hawking abilities that Jaylon Johnson does possess. And you look at his career up to this point, first 4 years in the National Football League, one thing has remained a constant for him. That's pass breakups, making a play on the ball, and just having a knack for sniffing the ball out, right? Rookie year, 13 games, 15 pass breakups on 78 targets. Year 2, 9 pass breakups on 72 targets. 2022 last year, 7 pass breakups on 51 targets. And in 2023 this year, he has 2 picks. He has 4 pass breakups. He's been targeted 24 times. And the other consistent theme here with Jaylon Johnson's numbers, this is a sizable amount of targets, right? Year by year, 78, 72, 51, and 24. Every single season, he has allowed a completion percentage under 60%. Why I'd love this move specifically for San Francisco, Jaylon Johnson is one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL. This is a building block for your organization. The asking price is not going to be as high as it will be for Patrick Surtain. So you get a player who's really good, who actually this year has better numbers than Patrick Surtain. He'd probably be cheaper as far as the asking price, but this could be a building block for your team several years moving forward. And cornerback is always important as a position to have quality players at, because today's NFL is catered to the offense. Schematically, though, and personnel-wise, this allows you to have 2 very good corners in Jaylon Johnson and Charvarius Mooney-Ward, and then Deommodore Lenoir moves into the slot. And Demo moving into the slot allows us to hopefully never, ever, 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 ever see Isaiah Oliver on the field playing a meaningful snap again. I can't take it anymore. Isaiah Oliver is a stiff, okay? Last 4 games, he has allowed a completion rate of 100%. He's been targeted 8 times. He's given up 8 catches, 71 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And if you're like, oh, Chase, those are only the last 4 games. For the season, he has been targeted 40 times. He's given up 35 catches. That's a completion percentage of 87.5. He has been the 2nd worst cornerback in the National Football League. I understand that he made a couple of nice plays against the run this past week against the Cincinnati Bengals. I understand that earlier in the year against the Rams, he had an interception off a deflection. Making tackles and making plays against the run, that's cute and all. When you're a cornerback, your number 1 job is to hold up in coverage, and he can't. So if you have Jaylon Johnson, Mooney Ward, and Deommodore Lenoir, that's a very good secondary for San Francisco. They'll only be as good as the Niners' pass rush is, and that's obviously a massive concern too. And I'm not sure that the front 4 is tied to the back end schematically. That's why Steve Wilks has come under fire. More on him throughout this week. But Isaiah Oliver has to be better. And if he can get replaced and hopefully benched after the bye week, whether they trade for Johnson or not, it just makes his defense better. Today's poll question is this. Head to rant. Should the Niners trade for Jaylon Johnson? Give me a T for trade or a P for pass. Join the conversation down below in the comments section. More trade rumors to get to on the other side. First, though, today's 49ers report is presented by Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app and the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. You can get up to a $100 deposit match only if you use that link down below, prizepicks.com/CLNS, and you use the code CLNS. Why this app is my favorite DFS app that I use every day, because I love wagering on sports. Daily Fantasy Sports Made Easy. Largest DFS app independently run in North America. Their daily specials and discounts allow you to win real money and have better odds at hitting on some of these picks. Up to $100 deposit match is cool. And if you're like me and you like the NBA and the NFL, because I cover both here at Chat Sports, not just the Niners, now you can combine your NBA and NFL picks. Here were my picks during Sunday's game against Cincinnati. If Brock Purdy didn't throw that awful red zone interception on that broken shovel pass to George Kittle, we would have hit. I would have won a lot of money, right? I had Brandon Ayuk more than 5 receptions. I had Brock Purdy more than 1.5 total passing, rushing, and receiving touchdowns. He had the 1 touchdown throw to Christian McCaffrey. And then I had Evan McPherson more than 5.5 kicking points. This one hit. Niners offense let me down. So it's Daily Fantasy Sports Made Easy. We'll put that link down below in the comment section as well as in the description of this video. All right, let's round out with this. Shout out Larry Krueger. First of all, really respect his Niners and NFL analysis also respect what he's been able to do building up his own YouTube channel, going from sports radio, which is an older demographic, to now crushing it on YouTube. Not easy to build up YouTube channels. He's doing it. So are we. And I believe he's one of the best covering the Niners on a daily basis. Also, I joined him last Friday on his YouTube channel, The Krug Show. I'm going to be joining him again this upcoming Friday. So make sure you tune in. Some people have said it's must listen and must watch Niners talk. I tend to agree. I'm confident in myself. He said this on Twitter, and you kind of look at the names on this list. We talked about Montez Sweat a lot. You can cross him off. He has been traded from Washington to the Chicago Bears. Second-round pick, too. Pretty good asking price. Adoree Jackson is another cornerback who San Francisco could have interest in. He's more so better suited to play in the slot, good athlete, has return ability. Turn on his USC highlights from several years ago, started with Tennessee, went to the Giants. He was a stud, an all-around stud who can have a multifaceted impact on the game. Doesn't really return as much anymore, more so hones in with his coverage ability, but a solid slot corner who San Francisco could target. Jaylon Johnson is obviously one of the top trade targets available going into the deadline here on Tuesday. And then you look at Paris Campbell and Deontay Foreman. We haven't talked about these two players, but we have talked about backup wide receiver and how just adding another complementary weapon for that receiving core, a guy who can get vertical, take the top off of the defense, and just pose a speed threat, could help out this offense a lot. In Kyle Shanahan's scheme, he has a lot of crossing routes, a lot of rub routes, a lot of routes that go underneath and across the middle of the field. And as we know, Brock Purdy kind of specializes in throwing in between the numbers and in between the hashes. Hello, Jimmy Garoppolo, who was awful on Monday Night Football, by the way. But that's really where this offense lives, right? So I think the thought process with a guy like Paris Campbell, you get a guy who can get vertical and at least pose that threat, right? A safety is going to have to come over the top. He's going to already have corner attention. And then what can that do if you layer routes in the short, intermediate, and even long directions of the field going across the center of the field? So I can see why San Francisco could be available in a player like that. And then backup running back, a little bit of an issue. Christian McCaffrey hasn't looked right, I'd say, the last few weeks. And because of that, I think this Niners running game has struggled, and this offense has struggled as a byproduct of that. Christian McCaffrey, the bye week comes at a really good time, going to allow him some time to really recover and heal his body a little bit. Down the stretch, I don't want to see San Francisco use Christian McCaffrey like they did in the first 8 games of the season. We've been talking about this really since week 1 or week 2. Like, you have to conserve him, you have to save him, and you want him to be healthy at the end of the year. So have a running back who could take some carries off of his shoulders. Elijah Mitchell doesn't look the same. There's no doubt about that. I don't know why the Niners aren't playing Jordan Mason a little bit more. Anytime he has the football, he's picking up positive yards. Almost had a couple of punt blocks with that special teams unit on Sunday, so he's contributing there. I just think the physical element that his game has and then the flash element that McCaffrey has is a good blend to have at that running back position. Maybe that's one of the bye week changes that the Niners could make. But Deontay Foreman is that physical running back who's been in the league for a really long time. And maybe Mason isn't playing a lot because the Niners don't have a lot of trust in him with pass protection. Foreman should be able to help a little bit more there. Ty Davis Price, he ain't it either because he couldn't block me if he was in pass protection. So some other names there. And then some more notes. Keep this in mind. It's hilarious to me when people are in the comment section saying, this is clickbait. The Niners are never going to trade for these players. I mean, come on now. I was right on Christian McCaffrey. We talked about him. I was right on Randy Gregory. I called a signing like Javon Hargrave. Like, the Niners have the most cap space in the NFL. They're in a Super Bowl ready and win now window. They're going to do everything, and they should do everything that they can to maximize this 2023 team. And here's the thing. They have the ability to take on large contracts or to pay an extension to a guy like Jaylon Johnson while still having money for Brandon Ayuk and Talanoa Hufanga because they have more than $40 million in cap space. So the resources are there as far as financial capital. They have draft capital as well. They finally have a first-round pick. And San Francisco, on top of that, projected to have 12 picks in the 2024 NFL Draft. So it is possible to bring in some of these big-ticket players. I do think that going into the bye week, a lot of the Niners' changes, they're schematic. It's execution. They have the bodies in place, but why not become a more talented team if you can, if the deal is right? And then we round out the show with this from Tim Kawakami of The Athletic, Bay Area sports legend. Buzz from pregame is that the Niners definitely live for one or two potential trades. Tuesday is the deadline. Wins or losses today by key potential sellers to either stay in or mostly drop out of the playoff race will be key. Washington lost to Philadelphia. They traded Montez Sweat. San Francisco lost, so they're on the other spectrum of that, of trying to improve this roster. Important to note all of this going into the deadline here today. So if you want to contact me, interact with me, chop it up, love hearing from the faithful. I'm on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Chase_Senior, Instagram, at Chase_Senior. You can also shoot me an email, chase@chatsports.com. I've been able to interact with a lot of people there, and sometimes it's easier to respond on email because I can just do it right on my laptop and not have to go on my phone, which hurts my fat-ass fingers. All right, appreciate y'all for watching today. Make sure you subscribe. If something big happens, we're going live, so we'll see you then.